you got a right to know why. It's probably been another murder.
Or else somebody's escaped.
Oh, come on, you gotta tell us. Oh, yeah, come on.
Inside. Good day, Lizzie. You old bag.
Oh, Chrissy. Chrissy Latham?
Inside, Birdsworth. You too, Anderson.
Now, what's all this about?
We've several matters to take up on behalf of the union.
I thought we'd settled all that last night.
So did we. Events today proved otherwise.
You're referring to the matter concerning Mrs. Jackson.
That's right.
Well, I've already apologized to Mrs. Jackson.
I'm afraid things have gone beyond that, Mr. Fletcher.
We have been appointed to present you with a list of demands. The officers are tired of being the meat in this sandwich.
What demands?
The immediate transfer of Latham.
I'm working on that.
The end of the present constant surveillance, which is totally unnecessary and further alienates staff from prisoners. Reinstatement of privileges to the women. And the release of B. Smith from solitary to avoid further unrest.
Oh, you've finished, have you? I mean, you wouldn't like something else, like perhaps the crown jewels or maybe my head on a platter? This is unbelievable. That the staff of a prison should demand that criminals in their care, convicted criminals, be pampered and pandered to.
We are concerned with the safety and well-being of our fellow officers, nothing more.
I've been placed in charge of this prison to try and maintain harmony. Now, I made more concessions last night than I thought were justified, and I'm certainly not going to make any more.
If you don't, Mr. Fletcher, the staff have voted to strike. Well?
All right, you're on strike. I'll inform the department. They'll no doubt contact the union.
You'll be provided with a skeleton staff to maintain order. The women are locked in their cells.
Miss Bennett, as Deputy Governor, might I inquire where you stand on this issue?
I'm a member of the union, so I'm bound by its decisions. But I'll be staying on duty as one of the skeleton staff.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for everything.
What's going on?
We're on strike.
On strike? Over what?
A whole list of things, but the last straw was Chrissy Latham.
Yes, I was amazed they brought her back in.
And I refuse to work while she's here, and the staff have backed me up.
You look like you could do with a drink.
No, I don't think so.
Sure? It must have been a hell of a shock seeing Chrissy again.
It was.
Well, then what I'd say is you need a drink with your local GP.
Save it for Karen.
I don't think that was called for, Meg.
Don't you? Well, I'm sorry. I don't need your sympathy. Or want it any longer.
Let me out. Let me out. They're not allowed to do this. I'm only on remand.
Oh, come on.
But it's been hours. You can't do this. Let me out.
They can't, but they have. Come on. Come on, sit down.
Why?
There must be a strike. It's the only explanation. A strike? Oh, this is what happens when there's a strike. We're locked in till they settle it.
How long will that be?
Could be days.
Days?
Or could be. Or it might be just a couple of hours. But there's no use in getting upset.
You seem to know a lot about prisons.
I've been inside for a couple of years.
What did you do?
Hid my husband and son after an armed hold-up. Aiding and abetting. What about you?
I killed somebody. Shot her. The woman who murdered my mother.
I read about that in the papers. You're,
Rosalind Colson.
That's right. I'm Pat O'Connell. I'm pleased to meet you.
So, you didn't really do anything wrong?
That's a matter of opinion. Do you expect to be convicted?
I did it. But the woman that I shot, she was acquitted. And she was as guilty as anything.
It's sad. Someone as young as you. You know what I miss most? My children. They're growing up and I'm missing it. But I've made myself a promise. This Christmas, I'm going to be home. I'm going to be with them.
I'm glad we've been put in here together.
So am I. It's funny, isn't it? Our crimes are a bit the same in a way. Yours for your mother, mine for my son.
Where did you get that chocolate bar?
Out of the vegetable crisper.
I hid those.
Well, I found them.
Judy,
What?
they're not good for you or the baby.
For heaven's sake, you were the one that stopped me eating the pizzas and the fish and chips.
Well, I didn't mean for you to take over the whole chocolate industry.
Well, I like them.
You want a cup of coffee?
It's bad for you.
Can I talk to you for a minute? Look, I don't mean to nag. It's just that after being in prison, you have to sort of get used to, well, having to keep an eye on someone.
Yeah, Gran's the same.
That's another thing. This whole setup's a big strain for her.
I know.
What are you going to do for money once the baby comes?
Well, I've got my single mother's pension and the bit that Dad gives me on the quiet. And I'll get a job as soon as I can.
Could you move back with your parents?
You don't know my mother. She wanted me to have an abortion, and when I said I wouldn't, she said I'd be shaming the family and I'd be on my own. And she meant it.
Or have you spoken to her recently?
Wouldn't do any good. She's a fanatic.
But it's her grandchild. I'm sure she'd change her mind.
She's just getting worse. Dad told me. Don't you think I'd try if I thought it would help? Do you think I like Gran having to work so hard?
Your mother sounds just like mine. Come on, let's have that coffee.
Yeah, Barnhurst was never dull. That's what you ought to have here. Men and women all in together.
All together? Oh,
Well, as good as. Of course, we weren't supposed to mix. But where there's a will...
I'd rather have a good bottle of whiskey.
Oh, we used to sneak on over there at night. Me and a couple of the other girls to the men's block. One of the screws would leave the gate open for us. We used to have parties.
What did the screw get for leaving the gate open?
Oh, what do you think?
God, man, to have to be hard up to have a woman with a laugh like that.
What do you mean?
You sound bloody dangerous.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something. They were lining up at Barnhurst.
Oh, yeah, I bet they were.
Like I was saying, we used to have these parties. And this particular night, I got a bit full.
You could get grog in there.
Of course we did.
Oh.
Anyhow, this night, I decided to do a strip. So here I am, right in the middle of it, when the door opens, and in walks the governor. You've never seen people move so fast. Under the beds, out the back door. One poor bloke, he tried to hide behind the stove and he nearly set himself on fire. But I didn't bat an eyelid. I just went right on stripping. And the governor, he sits right down, waits for me to finish, and then he takes me home with him.
Oh, that's all bull.
So you reckon it's all bull, do you, Dory?
Hey, leave her alone. Come on, if we've got to share a cell, we've got to get on together.
Yeah, well, if you want to share a cell with me, sweetheart, you're going to have to tone it right down now that Frankie's not here to protect you.
What's your mate like? That new girl. What's she like?
Pat O'Bloody Connell. She's a crawler. Sucks up to the screws all day.
Wonder when they're gonna let us have some food. You hungry, Dor?
Yeah, a bit.
It's not right, keeping us locked up like this.
Wish Mrs. Davidson was here. It's bloody typical. Everybody runs out on us.
You want a